The massive space station hung in the void between stars, its crystal walls gleaming with an alien light that had never touched Earth's sky. Inside the central chamber, 12 different species sat around a circular table that seemed to float in midair. Each delegate represented a civilization that had conquered entire star systems, but today they all focused on one small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. Chancellor Vextai of the Hegemony Prime stood at the center of the circle. His tall gray form moved with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. His black eyes swept across the gathered delegates as he activated the holographic display above the table. Members of the Galactic Council, his voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly into 12 different languages. We face a problem that requires immediate action. The hologram showed a spinning blue and green world. Earth. Small and unremarkable compared to the vast empires represented in this room, but the data streams flowing around it told a different story. This species calls themselves humans, Vextai continued, pointing at the planet with one long finger. 50 of their years ago, they barely had spaceflight. Today, they have weapons that could threaten our outer colonies. A creature that looked like a living tree rustled its bark-like skin. How is this possible? Our scouts reported them as primitive just decades ago. That is exactly the problem, Vextai replied, his voice growing colder. They advance too quickly, too unpredictably. In the past 50 years, they have gone from chemical rockets to fusion drives, from simple computers to artificial intelligence, from nuclear weapons to something our scientists cannot even identify. Another delegate, this one resembling a giant insect, clicked its mandibles together. What do you propose, Chancellor? The same solution that has maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years, Vextai said. Pacification protocols. We offer them membership in our civilization under our guidance, or we remove the threat they represent. The chamber fell silent. Every species present had faced this same choice when they were young and growing too fast. Most had chosen submission. Those who had refused no longer existed. The vote? Asked the tree-like being. Unnecessary, Vextai replied. I am invoking Emergency Protocol 7. The humans have developed faster than any species in recorded history. They must be contained before they become a threat to galactic stability. He gestured, and the hologram changed to show human cities, human ships, human weapons. Look at their military technology. They have created weapons designed to kill their own kind in massive numbers. Their entire history is one of constant warfare. They are violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. What are your terms? Asked a delegate that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. Standard pacification terms, Vextai said. They surrender all military technology. They accept population controls to prevent further rapid expansion. They submit to council oversight for all technological development. And they provide tribute to help fund galactic peacekeeping efforts. And if they refuse? Vextai's thin lips curved into what might have been a smile on a more pleasant face. No species has ever refused twice. The hologram shifted to show massive ships hanging in space above other worlds. Worlds that were now empty. Their populations relocated to work colonies or simply eliminated if they proved too troublesome. How long do we give them? Asked the insect delegate. 30 standard galactic days, Vextai replied. Enough time for their leaders to understand the futility of resistance, but not enough time to develop new weapons or call for help from species that do not exist. He touched a control, and the hologram now showed Earth from space, peaceful and blue and utterly unaware of what was coming. I will deliver the message personally, Vextai continued. A show of force should convince them that cooperation is their only option. My flagship and a small escort fleet should be more than sufficient to demonstrate our superiority. The delegates nodded their agreement. This was how it had always been done, an overwhelming display of alien technology, followed by reasonable terms that any intelligent species would accept. The alternative was simply too terrible to contemplate. Prepare the standard message, Vextai ordered his aide, a smaller version of his own species. Address it to their governmental leaders. Make sure they understand both the opportunity we are offering and the consequences of refusal. As the council session ended and the delegates returned to their ships, Vextai stood alone in the chamber looking at the image of Earth. Such a small, insignificant world to cause such concern. But he had not become chancellor by ignoring potential threats. His aide approached with a datapad. The message is prepared, Chancellor. Should I transmit it now? Not yet, Vextai replied. First, position our scout ships around their solar system. I want to know about any military movements they make. Then disable their global communications temporarily. Let them know we can reach them anywhere. Yes, Chancellor. And the message content? Standard terms. Surrender their weapons. Accept our guidance. Submit to population controls. Provide tribute. Join the galactic community as junior members, or be removed as a threat to galactic peace. The aide made notes on the data pad. How many ships should accompany you for the final negotiation? 200 should be sufficient, Vextai said after a moment of thought. We want them to understand the scale of what they face, but we do not want to appear unnecessarily aggressive. As his aide hurried away to make preparations, Vextai remained in the chamber, studying the slowly rotating image of Earth. Something about this world bothered him, though he could not identify what it was. Perhaps it was the speed of their development. Perhaps it was the reports from scouts about their military technology. Or perhaps it was something else entirely. He dismissed the feeling. In 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had faced 47 species that had reached the dangerous stage of rapid development. 47 species had been given the choice between submission and destruction. 46 had chosen submission after seeing the power arrayed against them. The one species that had chosen to fight had lasted exactly 6 days. Vextai expected the humans to be even quicker to surrender. Their own historical records, easily accessed by Council scouts, showed that they were quick to submit to superior force when the alternative was extinction. They were also pragmatic enough to recognize when they were outmatched. As the great space station began to move toward the jump point that would take the Council fleet to Earth, Vextai felt the satisfaction of another successful mission before it had even begun. Soon, Earth would be another peaceful member of the galactic community. Their dangerous rapid development safely controlled, their violent tendencies redirected toward useful labor. It would be, he was certain, a very short and simple negotiation. The holographic image of Earth continued to spin slowly in the empty chamber, blue and white and green looking exactly like what it was. A small, fragile world hanging in the vast darkness of space. There was nothing about it that suggested it might be anything other than what every other world had been. Nothing at all. President Sarah Chen stood in the emergency session room deep beneath the White House, her face pale but determined as she watched the alien message replay on the massive screens around her. The translation had taken 6 hours to decode, but the meaning was crystal clear. Submit or be destroyed. How long since they cut our communications? She asked the general standing beside her. 18 minutes, Madam President, General Morrison replied. Every satellite, every internet connection, every radio signal. They shut us down completely for exactly 10 minutes, then let everything come back online. A demonstration, Chen said quietly. They wanted us to know they could do it. Around the room, the leaders of every major nation on Earth sat in stunned silence. The British Prime Minister, the Russian President, the Chinese Premier, the heads of the European Union, India, Brazil, and dozens of other countries. For the first time in human history, they were all in complete agreement. The message is being broadcast on every frequency simultaneously, reported Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's top xenolinguistics expert. They want to make sure everyone hears it, not just our governments, Chen nodded. Outside this room, she knew that every television, every radio, every internet connection was showing the same thing. An alien face delivering humanity's ultimatum. 30 days to surrender their weapons, accept alien oversight, and become junior members of something called the Galactic Council. Options? Chen asked the room. The Russian president spoke first. My military advisors say we should consider their terms. 200 alien ships with technology we cannot match. My scientists agree, added the Chinese premier. Their demonstration of our communication system shows capabilities far beyond our own. Chen looked around the room. Fear. That's what she saw in every face. These were the most powerful people on Earth, and they were afraid. Dr. Webb, she called to a thin man in the corner who had been silent since arriving. Your assessment? Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from the tablet he had been studying. As head of the Advanced Technology Research Division, he had been analyzing alien technology for years, from the peaceful visits that everyone now realized had been spy missions. They made a mistake, Webb said quietly. Excuse me? Chen asked. Webb stood up, his tablet displaying technical diagrams that meant nothing to most people in the room. When they shut down our communications, they had to interact with our systems directly. For 10 minutes I had alien technology touching every piece of electronics on Earth. He touched his tablet, and the main screen changed to show complex mathematical equations. I've been reverse engineering their technology from previous contacts for 8 years, Webb continued. Today they gave me 10 minutes of direct interface with their systems. I now understand how their faster-than-light communication works, how their energy shields function, and most importantly, how their weapons operate. The room was completely silent now. The good news, Webb said, is that their technology is not magic. It follows physical laws we can understand and replicate. The bad news is that they are correct about our current capabilities. If they attack us today, we would lose. So we surrender? Asked the British Prime Minister. No, Webb replied, looking directly at President Chen. We buy ourselves time and prepare for a fight they will never expect. Chen felt something change in the room. The fear was still there, but something else was growing alongside it, something that had driven humanity from caves to the stars. Explain, she ordered. Webb manipulated his tablet, and the screen now showed a map of the solar system. They expect us to respond like every other species has responded. They expect fear, followed by negotiation, followed by surrender. What they do not expect is for us to use those 30 days to turn our entire solar system into a weapon. General Morrison stepped forward. That's impossible. We don't have the technology or the time. We don't have their technology, Webb corrected. But we have something they have never encountered. We have human engineering, human creativity, and human stubbornness. Most importantly, we have the one thing that has gotten us this far. Which is? Chen asked. Webb smiled for the first time since entering the room. We have the ability to work together when someone threatens our home. Chen looked around the room again. The fear was still there, but now she could see something else: anger, determination, the same expression she had seen on human faces throughout history when someone had tried to tell them they could not do something. What do you need? She asked Webb. Everything, Webb replied. Every scientist, every engineer, every factory, every resource. And I need every military commander to start thinking about warfare in ways that have never been tried. General Morrison frowned. What do you mean? The aliens study military history, Webb explained. They know about our wars, our tactics, our strategies. What they don't know is that humans have never fought as one unified species. They have never seen what happens when 8 billion people stop fighting each other and start fighting together. President Chen felt a chill run down her spine, but it was not from fear. Draft the response, she ordered. Tell the aliens we need time to consult with all Earth's governments. Tell them we are preparing a formal surrender ceremony in 30 days. Make it sound like we are accepting their terms. Madam President, the British Prime Minister asked. We are not surrendering, Chen said firmly. We are preparing. Dr. Webb, you have everything you need. Every resource, every person, every piece of technology on Earth, use it all. Webb nodded. I will need to coordinate with military leaders worldwide. What we are planning has never been attempted. What exactly are we planning? Asked the Chinese premier. Webb looked around the room, making eye contact with each leader. We are going to show the galaxy something they have never seen, he said. A species that refuses to kneel. A species that turns their ultimatum into the biggest mistake they have ever made. As the meeting ended and leaders hurried back to their countries, President Chen remained in the room with Webb and General Morrison. Can we really do this? She asked quietly. Webb was already pulling up new diagrams on his tablet. Madam President, the aliens made one critical error in their calculations. Which is? They assumed that humans fight like every other species they have encountered. They assumed we would think like them, act like them, surrender like them. Webb looked up from his tablet, and Chen saw something in his eyes that made her believe they might actually have a chance. They have never fought a species that spent its entire history learning how to kill things that were bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than they were. Outside the underground facility, the world continued as if nothing had changed. But deep beneath the surface, in facilities that had been secret for decades, humans began to work on something that would change the galaxy forever. The countdown had begun. 29 days after the ultimatum, Chancellor Vexitai stood on the bridge of his flagship as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Behind him, 199 other ships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the deadly beauty of weapons that could crack planets. "Report," Vextai commanded his navigation officer. "All ships in position, Chancellor. No signs of human military activity. Their communications indicate they are prepared to surrender as requested." Vextai nodded with satisfaction. The humans had spent the past month sending increasingly desperate diplomatic messages, requesting more time, asking for clarification of terms, and finally accepting the inevitable. It was the same pattern he had seen dozens of times before. "Display their final communication," he ordered. The main screen showed a human female in formal diplomatic dress, President Chen, according to the intelligence reports. She spoke in the measured tones of someone who had accepted defeat. "We have prepared the surrender documents according to your specifications," the recording said. "Our representatives request the honor of presenting them to you personally aboard our International Space Station, as is customary for formal treaties in human culture." Vextai's aide approached.
"Chancellor, our cultural specialists recommend caution."
Humans are known for unpredictable emotional responses to surrender situations. "Of course they are," Vextai replied dismissively. "All primitive species need ceremony to accept reality. We will accommodate their need for formal ritual. It costs us nothing and ensures compliance." The aide hesitated. "Should we bring additional security?" "For what? To protect us from a species that can barely reach their own moon?" Vextai gestured at the tactical display showing human space technology. "Their most advanced warship has the firepower of our smallest scout vessel. We will take a standard diplomatic escort and allow them their ceremony." As his fleet moved deeper into the solar system, Vextai reviewed the intelligence reports one final time. Human military activity had actually decreased over the past month. Their space-based installations showed no weapons signatures. Their asteroid mining operations continued normal civilian activities. Most tellingly, their leaders had spent the month arguing among themselves about the terms of surrender. Exactly as expected. "Chancellor," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving clearance to dock with their space station." "Proceed," Vextai ordered. "Signal the escort ships to maintain position." This should not take long. The International Space Station grew larger on the view screen as they approached. It looked exactly like the intelligence photos, a collection of cylindrical modules and solar panels, clearly designed for research rather than defense. Vextai could see humans moving about inside through the observation windows. "Docking complete," announced the pilot. "The humans are requesting that you board with minimal escort, as their station cannot accommodate large numbers." Vextai selected 4 of his personal guards and left the ship. The airlock opened to reveal a docking tube that connected to the human station. As he walked through it, he felt the slight gravity shift that indicated human artificial gravity technology. Primitive but functional. The airlock at the other end opened to reveal 3 humans waiting for him. 2 were clearly military personnel, standing at attention in what appeared to be dress uniforms. The third was an older human in civilian clothes. "Chancellor Vextai," the civilian said, stepping forward. "I am Admiral James Harrison, representing Earth's Unified Military Command. Thank you for accepting our request for formal ceremony." Vextai studied the human admiral, older, gray-haired, with the bearing of a career military officer. His eyes held the defeated look that Vextai had seen in the eyes of 46 other species. "You have the documents?" Vextai asked. "Of course," Harrison replied, gesturing toward an inner chamber. "We have prepared everything according to your specifications. The surrender of all human military assets, acceptance of population controls, and agreement to tribute payments." As they walked through the station, Vextai noted the humans they passed. All appeared to be crew members going about normal duties. None showed signs of aggression or desperation. The station itself was clean, well-maintained, and completely unremarkable. "Your species chose wisely," Vextai commented as they entered what appeared to be the station's main conference room. "Resistance would have been costly for everyone." "Yes," Harrison agreed quietly. "We understand the mathematics of the situation." The conference room contained a large table with documents spread across its surface. Vextai could see that they were indeed surrender documents, written in both human languages and standard galactic script. Everything appeared to be in order. "Before we proceed," Harrison said, "I have been instructed to make one final statement." Vextai sighed internally. More human ceremony. "Proceed." Harrison straightened and looked directly into Vextai's black eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried no trace of the defeat that had been there moments before. On behalf of the 8 billion humans in this solar system, I want you to know that we have carefully considered your offer. Something in Harrison's tone made Vextai pause. The human's posture had changed. His eyes no longer held defeat, and, Vextai prompted. Harrison smiled, and it was not the smile of a beaten enemy. We decline. The words hung in the air for a moment as Vextai processed them. Then he laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the metal walls. You decline? Admiral Harrison, I believe you misunderstand the situation. You are not in a position to decline anything. Actually, Harrison replied, his smile growing wider, I think you are the one who misunderstands the situation. Vextai looked around the room and noticed something that had escaped his attention before. The humans in military dress were not standing at attention in respect. They were standing at attention because they were ready for action, and the documents on the table were not surrender papers. What is the meaning of this? Vextai demanded. Harrison walked to the table and picked up one of the documents. These are our terms, Chancellor. You will withdraw your fleet from our solar system immediately and return to your council with a message. Your terms. Vextai felt a cold anger beginning to build. You have no terms to offer. You have 30 primitive ships and weapons that could not damage our shields. You're absolutely right, Harrison agreed. Our ships could not damage your shields, which is why we decided not to use ships. Vextai felt the first stirring of unease. What are you talking about? Harrison touched a control on the table, and the wall screens activated to show views of space around the station. Vextai could see his own fleet, 200 massive ships in perfect formation. You see, Chancellor, you made some assumptions about humanity that turned out to be incorrect. Explain, Vextai ordered, his hand moving toward his weapon. You assumed we would think like every other species you have encountered. Harrison said calmly. You assumed we would be afraid. You assumed we would surrender. The view on the screens began to change. Vextai could see objects moving in the distance, too far away to identify clearly. Most importantly, Harrison continued, you assumed that when we said we were unpredictable and violent, we were admitting to character flaws. Vextai drew his weapon, a sleek energy projector that could cut through starship hull plating. The two military humans immediately raised their own weapons, primitive projectile devices that looked like toys in comparison. We were not admitting to flaws. Chancellor, Harrison said, apparently unconcerned by the weapons pointed at him. We were warning you. That's when Vextai heard it. A sound that should not have been possible in the vacuum of space, but which was being transmitted directly to his ship and broadcast throughout his fleet. The sound of 8 billion humans, speaking in unison. You picked the wrong planet. The screens around the room suddenly blazed with light as objects that had been too distant to identify revealed themselves to be massive kinetic projectiles, launched from hidden installations throughout the solar system and arriving at significant fractions of light speed. Vextai stared in horror as his perfect formation of ships began to die. One by one, torn apart by weapons moving too fast for shields to deflect and hitting too hard for armor to absorb. Impossible, he whispered. Chancellor, Harrison said quietly, you are about to learn what humans do to bullies. The first wave of kinetic projectiles struck Vextai's fleet with the force of artificial meteors. Ships that had terrorized dozens of worlds simply ceased to exist as chunks of asteroid moving at 30% of light speed tore through them like paper. The Chancellor watched in stunned horror as 67 vessels were destroyed in the first 15 seconds. Impossible, he repeated, but his voice was weaker now. Our shields can deflect any energy weapon. Admiral Harrison never took his eyes off Vextai as the slaughter continued on the screens around them. You're right. Your shields can deflect energy weapons. But we did not use energy weapons. Another wave of destruction swept through the alien fleet. This time the projectiles came from a different angle, launched from installations hidden in the asteroid belt. The remaining ships tried to maneuver, but they had been caught in perfect formation with nowhere to run. Rock, Harrison said simply. Metal, simple physics. Speed equals energy. We spent 30 days turning every asteroid mining operation, every space station, every satellite in this solar system into a weapon designed to throw things very, very fast. Vextai tried to contact his flagship, but the communications array had been among the first things destroyed. His perfect fleet was dying, and he could not even warn them what was coming next. But that is not the interesting part, Harrison continued, his voice still conversational despite the carnage on the screens. The interesting part is what happens next. The screens shifted to show Earth's moon, and Vextai felt his blood turn cold. The surface of the moon was moving. Not rotating, moving. Massive sections of the lunar surface were sliding away to reveal structures underneath that had definitely not been there 30 days ago. We had to work quickly, Harrison admitted. 30 days is not much time to hollow out a moon and turn it into the galaxy's largest weapons platform. But humans are very good at working quickly when motivated. The lunar installations opened fire, and Vextai realized that everything he had seen so far had been merely the opening act. Beams of coherent matter struck his ships with pinpoint accuracy, while swarms of small craft erupted from hidden bays to engage the survivors. "Those are not ships," Vextai said, staring at the swarms. "They are too small?" "Correct," Harrison replied. "They are artificial intelligence systems controlling weapons platforms. We decided that pilots were unnecessary, when you can build machines that think faster than any biological brain." More displays activated around the room. Mars revealed launch bays that had been disguised as research stations, sending waves of unmanned fighters toward the battle. Jupiter's moons opened to show massive railgun installations. Even the outer planets contributed to the assault, launching their own kinetic projectiles on trajectories calculated months in advance. "Your 30-day deadline was very helpful," Harrison said. "It gave us exactly the timeline we needed to coordinate the simultaneous conversion of our entire solar system into a military installation. But the truly impossible sight came when Earth itself entered the battle. The Pacific Ocean began to drain into massive underground chambers, revealing railgun installations the size of cities. The planet's rotation slowed noticeably as hidden mass drivers used the world's angular momentum to launch projectiles toward the alien fleet. "You weaponized your planet," Vextai whispered. "Actually," Harrison corrected, "we weaponized our solar system. The planet is just one component." The screens showed technical readouts that Vextai's military training allowed him to understand, even as his mind rejected what he was seeing. Every asteroid had been fitted with guidance systems and engines. Every moon had been converted into a fortress. Every planet had been turned into a weapons platform. "This is impossible," he said again. "No species could achieve this level of coordination in 30 days. "You are correct," Harrison agreed. "No species could achieve this level of coordination in 30 days. But we did not start 30 days ago." New displays showed construction projects that Vextai now realized had been disguised as civilian installations. Asteroid mining operations that were actually weapons manufacturing. Research stations that were actually military bases. Colony ships that were actually troop transports. "When did you start?" Vextai asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. 50 years ago, Harrison replied. "The first time your peaceful scouts visited our system. We knew you were not tourists. The alien fleet was down to fewer than 40 ships now, and those were desperately trying to escape the kill zone. But there was nowhere to run. Human weapons had been positioned throughout the solar system specifically to prevent retreat. You see, Chancellor, you made one critical error in your assessment of our species." "What error?" Vextai demanded. "You assumed that our history of constant warfare was a weakness." Harrison gestured to the screen showing the systematic destruction of a fleet that had conquered entire civilizations. It was actually practice. The screens shifted again to show something that made Vextai's heart stop. Earth's moon was moving out of its orbit, propelled by massive engines that had been built into its core. The entire satellite was repositioning itself for optimal firing angles. "We spent 50 years learning everything we could about your technology," Harrison continued. "Every peaceful visit, every cultural exchange, every trade negotiation, we were studying you, learning your weaknesses, planning for this day. But why?" Vextai asked desperately. "Why not simply accept our guidance? We offered you membership in the galactic community." Harrison's expression hardened. "You offered us slavery. You demanded we surrender our weapons, control our population, and pay tribute to species that had never earned our respect." The final wave of the attack began as installations throughout the solar system fired simultaneously. This was not random destruction. This was coordinated annihilation. Every remaining alien ship found itself targeted by multiple weapon systems. with no possibility of escape or defense, you see. Chancellor, humans have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. We prepared for war. When you demanded peace on your terms, we gave you war on ours. Vextai watched his flagship, the vessel he had commanded for 20 years, disappear in a flash of light as a lunar railgun round found its mark. Only a dozen ships remained now, badly damaged and completely outgunned. This is not possible, he said one final time. Our intelligence reports showed no military buildup, no weapons development, no preparations for war. Harrison smiled again, and this time it was the smile of a predator who had been patient for a very long time. Chancellor, let me teach you something about human intelligence operations. When we do not want you to see something, you do not see it. When we want you to see something else, that is what you see. The screen showed the true scope of what humanity had accomplished. Not just weapons platforms and military installations, but an entire civilization transformed for war. Every factory retooled for weapons production. Every scientist working on military technology. Every resource dedicated to a single goal, making the cost of threatening Earth too high for any rational species to pay. Your scout reports were accurate, Harrison admitted. They showed exactly what we wanted them to show. Peaceful mining operations, scientific research, normal civilian activities. What they did not show was that every piece of civilian infrastructure was designed from the beginning to be converted to military use at a moment's notice. The last alien ship died as Earth's primary mass driver fired one final round, a projectile the size of a building moving fast enough to liquefy anything it touched. It is finished, Harrison said quietly. Your fleet is destroyed. Your invasion is ended. Now you will carry a message back to your Galactic Council. Vextai looked around the room expecting to die. Instead, he found himself still alive, still breathing, still trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. What message? He asked. Harrison walked to the window and looked. Out at the debris field that had once been the most powerful fleet in the Y galaxy. Tell them that Earth is no longer accepting applications for membership in their club, he said. Tell them that any attempt to invade this solar system will be met with total war. And tell them that humanity is now accepting applications for membership in ours. 6 months after the destruction of the Galactic Council fleet, the Great Crystal Chamber that had once hosted 12 species now held only 7. The remaining delegates sat in shocked silence as Chancellor Vextai finished his report. His gray skin had taken on a sickly pallor, and his hand shook slightly as he deactivated the holographic display. Impossible, whispered the tree-like delegate. 200 ships. Gone in 6 hours. Not gone, Vextai corrected, his voice hollow. Completely destroyed, vaporized, scattered across their solar system like dust. I watched it happen from their space station while their admiral calmly explained exactly how they had done it. The insect delegate clicked its mandibles nervously. Our intelligence reports indicated no military buildup, no weapons development. Their intelligence reports were better than ours, Vextai replied bitterly. They knew about every scout ship we sent. They knew about every spy probe. They had been watching us for 50 years while we thought we were watching them. The floating jellyfish of light pulsed with agitation. How could a primitive species defeat our most advanced weapons? They are not primitive, Vextai said flatly. That was our first mistake. They allowed us to think they were primitive while they prepared for war on a scale we never imagined possible. He gestured, and the hologram showed technical readouts that still made no sense to him. They turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid. Their planet's rotation became a power source for magnetic accelerators. Their moon became a mobile weapons platform. Their asteroid belt became a swarm of guided projectiles. But the energy requirements alone, began another delegate. They built fusion reactors in their solar system's outer planets, Vextai interrupted. They mined antimatter from their gas giants. They created artificial gravity wells to bend spacetime itself. In 30 days, they accomplished industrial projects that should have taken centuries. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for 3,000 years through overwhelming technological superiority. That superiority no longer existed. What do they want? Asked the tree-like being. Vextai activated another section of his report. The image of Admiral Harrison appeared, speaking directly to the surviving camera systems from Vextai's flagship. Citizens of the Galactic Council, Harrison's voice echoed through the chamber. Earth hereby serves notice that we reject your authority over our species and our solar system. Any attempt to enforce your ultimatum will be considered an act of war. The image shifted to show the debris field where the fleet had died. However, Harrison continued, we are not unreasonable. We are prepared to offer trade agreements and mutual defense pacts to any species willing to treat us as equals rather than subjects. He is offering us terms, the insect delegate said, incredulously. There is more, Vextai said grimly. He activated the final section of his report. The hologram now showed a different human, a woman in civilian clothes standing before what appeared to be a construction facility in space. I am Ambassador Sarah Chen, the woman said. 6 months ago, your council demanded our surrender. Today, I am pleased to announce the formation of the Free Worlds Alliance, a coalition of independent species committed to mutual defense and equal representation. The view shifted to show massive construction projects throughout human space. Ships were being built, ships that incorporated both human and alien technology, in ways that should not have been possible. The Free Worlds Alliance currently consists of Earth and 8 other species, who have chosen to leave the Galactic Council in favor of our more democratic approach to interstellar relations. Vextai paused the recording. 5 of our own member species have defected. 3 others have declared independence and requested membership in this Free Worlds Alliance. Which species? Demanded the jellyfish entity. The Centauri Confederation was first, Vextai replied. They claimed they were tired of council oversight and wanted to try the human approach to governance. The Rigel systems followed within a week. The Vegan Republic left yesterday. He activated a new display showing the current political map of the galaxy. What had once been a unified council territory was now fractured, with large sections marked in a different color. The humans are not conquering, he explained. They are offering alternatives. Species that join their alliance keep their own governments, their own territories, their own military forces. They only agree to mutual defense and trade cooperation. And they are accepting this offer? Asked the tree being. Enthusiastically, Vextai replied. The humans defeated our fleet without losing a single ship or soldier. Word has spread throughout the galaxy that there is finally an alternative to council rule. The remaining delegates exchanged worried glances. For 3 millennia, the Galactic Council had been the only option for interstellar civilization. Species either joined and submitted to council authority, or they were eliminated as threats. The humans had created a third option, successful resistance. What of their military capabilities? Asked the insect delegate. Vextai activated another display, this one showing intelligence reports from the past 6 months. They are building ships faster than any species in galactic history. Their technology is advancing at an exponential rate. Most disturbing, they are sharing their innovations with Alliance members. The display showed technical specifications that made the delegates shift uncomfortably. Human ships that could accelerate at rates that should liquefy their crews. Weapons that could fire projectiles across interstellar distances. Shields that somehow redirected energy attacks back at their sources. How are they advancing so quickly? The tree being asked. They approach problems differently than we do, Vextai explained. Where we would form committees and conduct studies, they simply try different solutions until something works. Where we would seek consensus among experts, they allow individual researchers to pursue radical ideas. Their technological development is chaotic, unpredictable, and incredibly effective. What do our military advisors recommend? Asked the jellyfish. Vextai was quiet for a long moment before answering. They recommend that we do not engage the humans in direct military conflict. The cost would be too high and the outcome uncertain. You are suggesting we negotiate with them? The insect delegate asked incredulously. I am suggesting we survive this transition, Vextai replied. The age of council dominance is ending. We can adapt to a galaxy with multiple power centers, or we can be destroyed trying to maintain control we no longer possess. A new communication signal interrupted the session. The chamber's main display activated to show a human face that Vextai recognized with a cold feeling in his stomach. Greetings, members of the Galactic Council, Admiral Harrison said. I am transmitting this message to invite you to participate in the first Interstellar Peace Conference, to be held in the Sol system in 30 days. The display showed a massive space station under construction near Earth, clearly designed to accommodate dozens of different species. The Free Worlds Alliance believes that all sentient species have the right to determine their own destiny. Harrison continued. We invite any species interested in exploring alternatives to the current galactic power structure to send representatives to these talks. The conference will focus on trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and the establishment of interstellar law based on consent rather than force, Harrison explained. All species are welcome, including current council members who may be interested in a different approach to galactic governance. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence. They are offering us a seat at their table, the tree being said eventually. A seat as equals, not as rulers, Vextai corrected. The question is whether we can accept that. The insect delegate clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. What choice do we have? Half our territory has declared independence. Our military has been proven inadequate against human technology. We can negotiate from a position of weakness, or we can face extinction. There is another factor to consider, Vextai said quietly. Intelligence reports indicate that the humans are not planning to stop with defensive preparations. They are building exploration fleets, survey vessels, colony ships. He activated one final display showing the edge of explored galaxy. They are preparing to expand into uncharted space. If we do not establish relations with them now, they may become too powerful for any negotiation later. The remaining delegates considered this in silence. For 3,000 years, they had been the ones expanding, conquering, absorbing other species. Now they faced the prospect of being left behind by a species that had appeared from nowhere and changed everything. We will attend their conference, the tree being said finally, not as supplicants but as equals seeking mutually beneficial arrangements. Agreed, said the jellyfish entity. One by one, the remaining delegates voiced their agreement. Vextai felt a strange mix of relief and sadness as he realized he was witnessing the end of an era. Very well, he said. I will prepare our response, though I suspect that by the time their conference convenes, we may find ourselves to be the junior partners in whatever agreements we reach. As the session ended and the delegates departed, Vextai remained alone in the great chamber.